the last lecture, we went over reduction moves, shoulder hits, capping moves. We went into a fair amount of the standard plays for these, and I found those very useful for me. And I know how shoulder hits work, but I like that there's standard patterns for these, so I thought that was cool. And we covered the three main principles of invading and reducing, but only very briefly. And so we'll recap on those. To understand a good habits, right? Good fundamentals of invading and reducing, we want to cover these. We want to think about these. First, we have to consider the relationships with adjacent areas. So, depending on like competing moyos, if you have a weak group, we covered this in the last lecture, where this is actually comes into a big part of invading and reducing. Next, we have strike at enemies' weaknesses. We're going to see a lot of that today, and deep invasions need to rely heavily on this. So we're going to see aiming at weaknesses to try and survive quite a lot. And finally, we play flexible, right? We want to make sure to not be afraid to sacrifice some stones. If we can get a big reduction or evasion out of it, it's worth it. So that's what play flexible is. Heavy would be to chain all your stones together and they would live or die. Flexibility is about playing lightly. Also, you'll find a lot in this chapter is like you'll be paying attention to one part and all of a sudden we shift to another part of the board. You see this a lot in computer play, and you kind of feel like, or at least at my level and lower, that a lot of people don't do that, right? They stay focused on what they're doing. But we're going to see how the pros kind of play like the computers, like very flexible, just shifting around. So finally, so now that we've covered reductions, let's move on to invasions. So let's get started. All right, so black's dead in the top right corner, right? When we look at this here, it actually, even if it tries to connect, right, it doesn't have enough liberties to beat out white, because white can always make a
Yep.
tiger's mouth here, and so this is going to die, or at least it should.
Right.
White is almost dead in this corner. Apparently, there's some way to get a ko out of this, but the book didn't iterate and it didn't say it was important right now. So, understanding that white is almost dead here, it kind of has like a balance thing going on. Um, Important parts of the game are the white top left moyo. So, we see this is a very large potential, or at least some potential for white.
Mhm.
And black's right side moyo. So, this moyo on the side here. The junction point, which we learned about, I want to say last week, was is at C here. So these two adjoining moyos, this is like the next building point for white. But because of black's marked stones here, this would not go over well, right? Like if white tries to build a large place here, black can shoulder hit, black can invade, black has just influence looming over here. So there's just not that much that white can actually get. So then white should then consider using its power to invade the right. When we look at these white stones, they're very strong, right? And so this gives power to kind of invade over here. White should then consider using its power. If white played C, black F would make the right side even bigger. So like if we just played C, you could see black side and would become more secure and just bigger. And so in this case, it's considering that black is taking the lead here. So we have to find an invasion, right? One of the first things that we usually look at when we're invading is the midpoint between the two goalposts, right? Between the two strengths, walls, whatever you want to call them. Um, and so when we look at this, we can't make a two space base on either side. So this is already something I would consider not right. But yeah, when black plays here, white first thinks about the midpoints between the black's positions. Black is a strong counter, so black 2 is a very strong move against white 1. Black has sente moves on the top that could reactivate its dead group. So if white was to, like, let's say, try and run away, if black actually played the first move here or here, this would actually reactivate this to start making this lib, which means that black can close off this exit for white in sente. That's very important to understand. Black A or B threatens the revive at C, winning the capturing race. So instead of playing the midpoint, we're going to try just a little bit higher. And we can see that if black plays the same capping move, well, now we can actually poke at this weakness, right? If black doesn't block here, then white can actually put these in danger and these in danger. So black has to connect, and now white can poke out, right? If black tries
Mm-hmm.
to cap with 2, white uses the weakness of the black group on the top. The 3, 5, and 7 combo is a beautiful way to poke out at black's weakness to get out, and black's 2 cap doesn't work. So we can see one of the principles that we talked about, or fundamentals, in the beginning, was that we need to harp on our opponent's weaknesses in order to have successful invasions. This is a really nice example of that, right? And being able to poke at this weakness here. So I really like this. So because this doesn't work, black's gonna play a knight shoulder hit instead, or a knight shoulder cap, whatever you want to call it, a knight's cap. And instead of playing for this weakness, because black has emphasized more safety over here, white then goes for the attachment over here. We see that if black blocks the normal, move, then white can combo with 5 here. So black chooses the knight's cap. White attaches to black's strong group to gain strength. Right? We learned in the defense chapter that we usually attach to strong groups to get stronger ourselves. After white 5 and white 3 prevents the knight's cut from working. It's a ladder breaker. This is what happened in the author's actual game. So if black was to, let's say, try and cut here, we can see that this stone helps this one stone here, and that's game over for black. So this is a really nice combo of setting up this like kind of weird looking triangle. There are 2 general guides to choosing invasion points. Find the midpoint of the enemy framework, like the first example. When that doesn't work, the other side is to aim for the enemy's weak points. Yeah, this is principle number 2. You might ask why black extended instead of Haned, so let's take a look. They showed this in the book, and I thought it was kind of interesting. When white plays here, black doesn't want white taking over the corner, so black extends. But now you can see this just kind of helps white develop, right?
Mm-hmm.
Black 1 induces white 2, which helps white settle on the side. So, yeah, that's pretty much it here. So when we look at this invasion, this kind of gives you some groundwork on what to think and look for when you're looking to invade stuff. Nowadays, modernly, maybe there would be some attachments right from the start, but it still helps to understand, what the pros were doing back in the 80s, just because it's probably beyond our level, right? Single digit Q, double digit Q. So I still think it's really helpful, but yes, I do understand there's probably more modern ways to handle this. Still, though, this does give you some nice groundwork of invasions, right? First, we look at midpoints. If we have plenty of space to make base, then it should be fine. And if we don't, then we want to move a little higher, right? So this is really nice. Also, we want to look for our weaknesses, our opponent's weaknesses, right? Here's one, and then attaching here is another. So it's really nice. Invasions, I think, are pretty difficult. There's so many concepts you need to focus on, but hopefully these examples, like I said, will put some new ideas in your head and help you in your next games. In this position, white should play A. It sandwiches black's 2 stones against white's wall and has a follow-up connection at B. So when white plays A, black has some options. Well, in the book, actually, this is the only move that black chooses. The idea is that it's trying to get out and make a wall, right? You're trying to sandwich this stone or cover this stone. White, instead of playing here immediately, white actually looks for kind of something better, right? Maybe I have it in the script. I don't want to keep repeating myself, so let's get to the script. But let's take a look. So black caps white at 2. White does not play A automatically, right? White could just play here right now, If we go back, white could just connect under here right now. But he doesn't do that automatically because he keeps his trump card in reserve, right? When white plays 3, it threatens to come out at B, right? When we look at this, if black was to play somewhere else, white would be able to attach here. And so, because we have more options than just running backwards, it's really nice to move forward. Black covers, and then white then comes to 5. So black blocks at 4, which opens up 5, right? And black 5 looks risky. So something I thought was funny in the book is that not a lot of us might be able to find move number 5 because it looks like it can be cut, and there's all this weakness everywhere. And it said, the author I think was like a 4 or 5 don, James Davies, and he said even the American author couldn't find this move. So anyway, I don't know. I got a kick out of that. But so we can see if black was to try and just cut through, white can just make a living shape in the corner here. Like, yeah, white lost 1 stone, but white also has some aji here. So let me just read the script. If black pushes and cuts, white lives in the corner, and the best part is the aji for ABC connection. Black can try another way. So we can see if like black played somewhere else or like connected or something. Then white plays A, which threatens a connection at B, so black would block at B, and then white can jump to C, which would then connect to this group again. So this is really nice to have both the living shape in the corner and Aji to save the stone. So it was really cool to see this sacrifice. It looks very cramped, so I think it's kind of hard to find. The other way that black should play is this one, and white will back off, and white threatens the connection. And instead of playing the back off move or the cut right away, right, well, this was actually a problem in chapter 4. We were learning about using forcing moves before, like playing the safety moves, right? And so it was this peep, and it made black inefficient here. And so now white then comes back. Black has to fix itself. Thank you for the follow, Squoomy. Um, R10. Yeah, black has to fix itself, and then white gets to live. And this was a really cool invasion. I thought this was really nice. Black tries to take out the eye space with 1, then goes through the motions, right? We see 2, 3. We went through this. We learned to play white 6 in a previous chapter. Use your forcing moves before you settle, right? With the weakness at A, this invasion is quite successful, right? Not only has white lived, but white has a follow-up move at A to cut this off, right? And so this is considered quite a successful invasion. And like I said with the book, even if you couldn't find S17, right? If you couldn't find this number 5 move, the invasion is still useful because you could always play S11 at any time. You could have falled back to connect. So that was the part of the book that made me laugh, was saying like even the American author couldn't find this move. But even just knowing like that in this situation we want to press these stones and look for a better move to like than just running backwards, right? These are useful tips for you. So even if you can't find number 5, you can still play A, and this is already considered quite successful. Send the MGA link. Sorry guys, I sounds like you walked through a glass door. Yeah, that was. I didn't add that sound. I don't know why it hasn't come through, but Marty, I see you already got into the class, so sorry I didn't see that until now. Let's go on. Here black should start at A. This is an angle tetsuji we learned in chapter 3. So guys, looking at this, right? We see black has an iron pillar, and white has a diagonal, right? And we've kind of talked about this shape in previous classes, but there's many weaknesses to a diagonal versus an iron pillar. One of them is the angle tetsuji here. This is really nice. I like this move a lot. As you can see, if white just played something else, right, like here, Black just plays this and he's already connected, right? Or at least if not connected, he already gets further than what he's allowed. Black attacks with 1 and black can link up. This is pretty common in Joseki. The book doesn't go further than this, but you can clearly see that if white played this, then you'd be fine, right? Black would be in a good position. If white plays this, then yes, there is a cut, but he's still going to have to pay for that cut quite a bit, right? Black got more of the corner and made white into a cup, right? So it didn't cover that in the book, but I think that these are pretty common follow up moves you can find in a lot of Joseki. Um, but yeah, so this is nice. So if white plays over here, we can already make a good exchange. If white blocks, which is probably where most players would play, right? They want to get into the corner a little bit, and they want to cut off this stone. But now we can play 2, right? And so if white pushes down to separate black and hurt the corner, black plays 2, which is a nice light response. If white tries to push through, black makes great sabaki. So this is that principle number 3 that we talked about, play flexible, right? Be okay with sacrificing if you need to, right? So let's go through this. We can see that if white tries to directly push and cut through, we can Atari, right? And then we play, this is actually the move. A lot of people, I think, would play this move or maybe this, but yeah, this is actually the standard Tetsuji in this case. Because if white ignores it, right, and white plays somewhere else, black will play b14, and white actually just dies here. So this is a sente move where white has to fix itself in some manner, and then black has the next move to hit on top of the stone. So really, really cool Tetsuji that I think a lot of people miss. Sometimes even myself, right? Maybe I'd want to play here, or maybe I'd just directly play this and then fix. But you can see how that's Gote, and I like this Tetsuji a lot. It was a nice reminder of this. But yeah, the idea is that if white blocks you out, then you can just jump really far, right, out into the center, and you're okay with playing light. I don't know. I like this. It's a very simple example, but it makes complete sense to me. So it's a very nice invasion, and this really looks at the weakness of the shape, right? Once again, principle number 2: when we're invading, we want to look for weakness and ways to expand, right? So nice. Okay, so in this one, white's left side is quite big. So we should find a good place to invade, right? Looking at A and B for black, uh, let's take a look. So a very known and common weakness that people, I think, almost instinctually know from seeing it so much, but don't really think about often, in my opinion, is this idea of when there's a fourth line stone, the weakness is the knight's approach. This under move. We see it all the time at 4-4 corners, right? But it's also just as useful on the side of the board. So this is something that I think is like most people know. Thank you for the follow, Aid. I think most people know this instinctually, but when you think about it or talk about it, it becomes more apparent. So anyway, black one is a common invasion that always highlights the fourth line stone weakness, right? White is high, and so we come low with a knight's approach. If white ignores black one, let's try, yeah, so if white ignores black one and plays a Tanuki now, well, clearly black can just come out and connect to his buddy. And this would just kind of soil the whole area, right? Black follows up with 1 and 3, and black is out. So this would be good for black. If white clamps down on this stone, well, now black has a lot of freedom. It doesn't even really. I don't even think it showed it in the book, but you can see white and black has a lot of freedom to kind of just do what black wants. So let's take a look. Let's see. There we go. So this was the move the book was talking about. So let's try C. So in my opinion, this is kind of like bunkering down. Something that we usually don't like to do in Go, right? This is not very fun for white. If white bunkers down to 2, black jumps to 3, and it's a good exchange for black. even though black doesn't have a base here, right? We have a huge jumping point now. Black can play pretty far. As long as we play flexible and is okay with a sacrifice, then it should be fine. Sorry, my Google alert is telling me I should be teaching right now. So yeah, this bunkering down, usually not a good idea. So I don't like this move. And then finally, this is the best move for white. But in this case, excuse me, white 1 is white's best response. It stops black's expansion. And if black pulls out with A, right? So if black pulls out with A, white will then play this and wedge itself in. And then black has to kind of bunker down, right? It has to settle. If black pushes, he helps white build a connected wall. Blacks become confined. And if white plays A, so if white finds the time to play A, it threatens both the side and the corner. This result is good for white because of its thickness. Black has an alternative to 1. So some of you might feel like this is a successful invasion. And depending on the game itself, that could be true. But normally, it's not good to allow white all this thickness. Like, he has almost no weakness, and it's way too strong. And he has good follow-up Sente moves with A. And so this is considered much better for white than it is black. So instead, black should jump out. And white jumps out. Black's attaching to make shape. And now we see black should seek freedom with 1. This keeps white divided and weaker. After black 5, he will aim at A and B. Black has a fair fight going on, and this invasion is considered a success. If black didn't aim for the 4th line weakness, what would happen? So I'll get to that in 1 second. But let's just dive into this, right? Let's look with our eyes and not just read the script. At least for me, we can clearly see that black first started, right? White had all the advantage here. And so black first started by hitting the weakness of the 4th line, which is a knight's approach. And then no matter which way white answered, whether white bunkered down, Tanuki'd, or come on this side, black was A-okay, right? Black could make an A-okay situation for itself. So I really liked this example. It's a good example of invading here. So that's mainly it. It compounds with the weakness here, right? There was a helper stone that could help immediately, and so it's really nice. Sorry, there's construction going on behind me. I think you guys can hear it. It's like right outside my window. It's a little distracting even for me. But anyway, so let's look at what happens if we didn't find this weakness, right? We found a weakness, we found a helper stone, but what if we just played in the midpoint here? Well, if we played in the midpoint, white then takes the good spot, and black jumps out. So invading the midpoint without focusing on the 4th line weakness would lead to less success, right? You'd be considered pincered between 2 white strong groups. So this is just not as good, not nearly as good. All I see is a black group that's weak and running away. So big difference from the other shapes that we were getting. So this was a really nice example here. Okay. Flexibility and reducing and invading. So this is the part of the chapter that I felt was so high level. I see pros do it. I've played against pros. They definitely do this very well. I even some high dons I don't see do this, but I'm sure they do, and maybe I just missed it or didn't think about it. But I know for a fact, playing professionals, they do this all the time against me, and it is so interesting. Like, this is one of the highest level things I think you can learn from the book, and I don't know how much you'll absorb of this. Even myself, even though I've read it, I can't say I've successfully done this even once in my game time. So let's talk about this. So reducing invasions can often be helped by forcing moves or probes or hit and run tactics. I have done some probes because of learning Joseki, but that's about it. Essentially, play flexible and don't tie yourself down to defending every stone. So this is kind of what you should take away: is don't tie yourself down to every defending stone. And this hit and run tactic, you're gonna hear a lot because this is kind of, to me, this is what this part of the book was about, and I thought it was so interesting. So let's first start. When we look at this section here of the board, we can clearly see that black is going to make a lot of points very easily if it can enclose its corner. And so if it's if it's white's turn, white could invade. I could totally see somebody playing this right now, including myself, right? But as you can see, this is the B move, so it's probably wrong. So let's take a look at the right moves first, and we'll come back to B. The first thing that you should do in this situation is to ask black what black wants to do, right? This is a very nice shoulder cap, or a night cap, whatever you want to call it. It's a nice and smooth capping move. And most people, I would assume, black would want to defend its territory, right? And so this looks like it makes complete sense. Well, now after this exchange, we'll then play in the corner, and we'll see how much of a difference just adding this one stone does, right? First, let's hit with 1, limiting the Moyo before we take the invasion at 3. So if black blocks this way, right, when we're looking at the board, this is the biggest side and the most developed for black, so it makes sense for black to want to play this side. This is the Joseki's before the computer, so like this was pretty much the only move we had in our arsenal. You didn't see moves like this or like this often before 2016. This was the like Joseki. So this is an older style, but the idea still remains. Whether black played here or here, it's going to create a wall this way. So the idea is still the same. So after this, we can just look, right? We can just see that like 9, 11, 1, this triangle stone, it's all too close. It's way too over concentrated. And white has this beautiful stone that's limiting the Moyo. So, I'll read the script, which is probably going to repeat myself, but black would like to choose 1 because it's the bigger side. But if he does, the exchange of the mark stones was horrible for black. Black would prefer if white invaded first. So it's very clear that this would not be great for black. Whether we use the modern Joseki or not, when black makes a wall this way, having white stone here and this mark stone was a bad exchange for black. It's way too small, over concentrated, and white's doing a good job of reducing the Moyo. I really love this concept. I think this was super cool. So now let's just play if white didn't play 1, right? Which is something that, I think I would be a culprit of. Maybe a lot of other people in the audience. They would see this big Moyo, right? And be like, okay, well, I know I can invade in here and live, so let's do it. But once we do, and then, so at this point, black got his wall. And now when white tries the same move to try and limit black's area, black's not going to answer here, right? Black's going to play here. He's going to counter this move and start a really large attack against it. If white invaded the corner first with the marked stone and then played 1, black would not consider D8, right? Black wouldn't even look at this. Instead, he would cap and use his wall to fight, right? Which makes complete sense. What if blocked the invasion on the other side? Okay, yeah. So what if we played on the other side? So guys, already I think this is a very simple concept. And so I hope that you guys take away the idea of this. We're gonna see a lot of examples of this, but it's so interesting and it feels so high level, even though it looks so simple in the aftermath. But it makes complete sense. So let's go on. So what if black blocked this way, right? So we looked at this one, which makes sense. This one makes less sense, but let's take a look at it anyway. So in this case, I thought this was interesting. Black used the double Hane, but didn't take the corner. Instead, Black used its extra strength to just connect to its stones here, right? Which cut off this triangle stone. And so I found that kind of interesting. It was a nice alternative to the Joseki for a different purpose. But let's read the script here. I think these moves are simple to find, right? We can see, this normally happens. Now, normally Black would play something like this, but instead he connects to his stone. So let's read this out. Uh, Black could use the double Hane technique to stay connected, push White down, and disconnect the triangle stone. But if Black has to block on the narrow side, this side here, this is considered a big setback for Black, right? And the triangle stone induced Black to play this way. So, like looking at territory and Moyo influence, right? Like this is super small, and this is pretty small. White actually looks like it got a decent sized corner. And even though you couldn't argue it's a weak group because it got cut, you could also argue it's a forcing move. And we don't defend our forcing moves, right? We don't care if this gets killed. But it's going to have a hard time dying anyway, especially if we play flexible, right? And so, no matter what Black chooses, when White plays this move here, it seems there's nothing good for Black to do. Black's just kind of um, for lack of better term, screwed, right? Like you can't find a good position for Black. So it seems like amazing to me, right? It seems Black doesn't have a good enough response to White's hit and run tactics, right? Which shows how good it is to play in this style. In this case, White tapped outside, right, with this move first, and then invaded, right? In the next example, we're gonna see if the corner is not open, then we can do the opposite order. We can tap on the inside of a closed corner and then start moving on the outside. So we're going to look at that next. Doesn't Black have more territory? So Marty asked if Black has more territory. In the game as a whole, I haven't evaluated it. I'll tell you that. I haven't evaluated it as a whole. But what I can say is when we looked at the beginning of this, Marty, Black had a lot of potential to make a lot of points. So if we go to the end result of here, this doesn't feel like a lot of points, nor does this, in my opinion. And White actually got a big chunk of it. So if you're asking about the whole board, if Black has more points, it's possible, but I think White's in pretty good standing here, right? One has a chunky corner, another chunky corner, potential for another one, and then a nice group here. So let's see. I'll buy that. Okay. What we can say is that this was a big success for White, right? That's all I can say is combining this with this. This is really nice. And we saw the difference of playing this first without this, right? So really, really nice. Be flexible in reducing and invading. So the next example is to me even at a higher level, right? Like that's one maybe some of us could find in our games. But this one I think is even harder, right? So now Black's group on the bottom is huge, right? White needs to find a way to break up this area. The corner is closed, but our first move is to tap on the inside. So in the last example, we tapped outside and then went in. This example, the corner is closed, so we're going to tap inside, and then we're going to tap outside. So first we play here. And Black has two options. Let's look at the normal one first. And now we hit this shoulder cap, right? This seems to be a good theme of this. And if Black protects its territory, like it did last time, we push, and then White has some good options here. One, White can do this invasion. We looked at this in the one of the previous diagrams because we know there's a connection aji here or a jumping out. And second, which is really nice, which actually I've used just recently in my correspondence game with Neil, is this move here. So you guys might not be too familiar with this, but this starts to create like the scorpion shape. So we can run through the moves. Let's take a look. I should read the script, but I kind of already. We'll run through it first. So the idea is that if black played here to block white from expanding this way, then we can play this and this and this and this. And now we have what we call the scorpion shape, which creates a ko. If white wins this ko, white's going to live in the corner. If black wins the ko, black will kill the corner. But since this was already a heavily defended black corner, just having even a chance to take it away from black is huge, right? And if it does, you can see the aftermath, right? If white lives here, this what was a huge moyo now becomes a very small territory and a very small territory. So it really is pretty cool. Let's read the script. It's going to be just what I showed you, but after the tap at 1, if black plays 2, white switches to the outside reduction, leaving 2 as a sleeper agent. So this move here, I meant it actually should be move 1 is the sleeper agent. When white finds the time, white can start with an invasion at A or set up a ko with B to G. White is really annoying. This is considered over concentrated for black, and now we'll look if black tries to start with B. But I've played one of the American professionals, Andy Liu. I won some like contest, AGA contest, and played Andy Liu in like 3 or 4 games. And he would do this stuff constantly to me. I would feel him play these like probe moves that didn't really make sense to me at the time, and then later he would activate them, right? And I remember him playing like this. It was really, really advanced for sure, and that's my experience with playing pros. I've played a lot of Japanese pros from the International Osaka Go School, and they're really good at playing this way. And I don't see anybody at my level playing this way. I don't even see a lot of Dons that I face play this way. So I really like this stuff. I think this is super high level. I seem to recall this happening to me in handicap games sometimes. Okay, yeah. Some probes come from Joseki, so I mean, I play some of them sometimes, but I like the ones we saw in example. I think I would have might have missed, right? So I think it's pretty cool. So black plays this. So if we play this, it leads to that ko variation or the invasion here. So instead, black will try and stop that ko. He's aware of the ko, and so he plays this. But now, once we can actually play an even more forceful shoulder hit. Before, when we played this is kind of as close as we wanted to get. But now that there's not too much strength here, we want to even play closer. And then we get to jump. And you can see that there's a weakness here. So if black answers here to save it from the ko, black is weaker on the outside, right? Black was weaker on the outside. White can reduce deeper with the shoulder hit. Black is more flat and has a weakness at A. So we can see black has become way more flat. No matter how black chooses to answer white 1, he cannot find the perfect response, right? By playing flexible and using hit and run tactics, white's probe was perfect. So in both examples, black couldn't do anything about these tactics. So it shows how amazing they are to me. That like it's usually when you do something, black has options to resist or refute it, but in this case it doesn't feel like black, no matter what he resists with, doesn't seem to work. So it's pretty cool. Like this is some really, really cool stuff. I don't think there's anything else in this, so we're gonna look at some more. This was a professional game, Ren versus Ishida, the author of the book, in a Honimbo title match. um, White has a large framework on the bottom, right? This is a very large framework. Excuse me. So black starts with A to probe white and see how he plays. So just like last time, he's gonna tap something first and then try something later. So in this case, he started with A, right? Because here's pretty big cutting point that's gonna affect a lot of the area here. Um, if white connects, Black will then play this move. This is like a really high move that I felt was kind of interesting as a reduction. White's gonna save its territory, and then black jumps up. And we can see white connected at 2. This made the outside the more important part of the framework. So black shifts to 3 and 5. So the idea is because when white blocked here, this area is starting to become stronger, right? And so this becomes important, and so that's why black shifts to over here. Once again, this stuff is pretty high level. I don't even think I play. I obviously I don't play as well as the people playing in a Nimbo title, but it's very high level stuff. I thought this chapter was extremely advanced. If white caps black plays 2. So if white caps here, black plays 2, 4, 6, and then you can see now the value of this stone, right? This stone is actually helping this group quite a bit. This sequence happened in the game, and the book stated that 1 extra stone can be the difference between life and death. Let's take away the mark stone exchange. So let's go back. Actually, I think it's forward. Yep, forward. If black never played this exchange and then tried to harp on this weakness, the same peep just in a different order, white's not going to respond here, right? White's going to play this. And now black is completely trapped in here. So all its moves that it tried to do gained absolutely no eyes or any value. White won't respond as before. This is better for white, shutting off black's escape from this direction. So now, to be fair, I don't know how much this helps, but you can see that the exchange is already nice for black, right? Actually, I do see how it helps, right? The book doesn't state it, but we could easily see that we can, make some good shape like this, or we can start attaching outside here or something. But it just looks nice that there's some, help here, right? And so, yeah, it's a little hard to see even for me, but we can see without it that this move definitely wouldn't be good, or this move would have less value, right? Trying to escape this way. So very nice, very interesting. So now if white doesn't answer with this, right? White is good enough to see that something like this is going to happen. So instead, white plays this move. Black now, once again, we do this kind of tap on the outside and then invade on the inside type tactic, right? This is called hit and run tactics. Very cool stuff. And by the way, yeah, you're right, Pico. I guess you could get this feeling from handicap games. And that's because Black usually can't play heavy, right? Black has to play wacky invasions and all sorts of overplays to try and make up the gap, right? If Black just played solid and regularly, Black's not going to do a good job in a handicap game. So yeah, I can now see what you mean by that. But let's see. So Black attached, White then plays here. Black does a dancing Hane. White fixes, and then we get to pretty much just take the corner. I don't think you guys need to examine too hard to see how this kind of works. But if white commits himself differently by using 1, so this white move here at 1, black has tapped the outside, so now he will move to the corner. After black takes the corner, the white group has become over-concentrated, making move 1 bad. Also, black has the Aji of A to E. So let's just take a look at this in general. Like examining or evaluating the board. Originally, this was a huge moyo for white. And then all of a sudden, after this invasion, after the peep and then invasion, white looks really small here. This move looks like it's in the wrong place. It looks over concentrated, and same with this, right? And so this is really nice. Flexibility or flexible play is an art. We will end the chapter with some pro examples. So we're getting close to the end, guys. For the Aji with A to E, let's just take a look. So if black plays A, white plays B, black plays C to kill these 3 stones. white plays D, so we have a white stone here and here, and then black would jump. So we can show this if I like Tanuki or something. Let me see if I get the order right here. So black cuts, we threaten these. Black fixes, we jump like this, and then I think black's move was here. I think maybe I might have missed the last one, but you can kind of see that it puts pressure on these two stones, and you're getting out, right? I don't know if this was the move. Let me just double check. It was, and so that's it. That's it. So the idea is that black took the corner, has good Aji, and white looks over concentrated, and it all started with keeping first and then going for the invasion. Very similar hit and run tactics we've seen in the other examples, just at a very, very high level. Did I miss it? Here we go. So this was Sakata versus Kano. We can see there's really big frameworks in this game. Okay, so when we look, white says that this is the most important part of the board, and so white invaded. Right? It looks like a reduction, but it's so deep behind the sector lines. I would call it an invasion, even though it's not like on the lower ground. Black protected territory. White's attaching to attaching to a strong group to get stronger itself, and then white did this nice cap here and then fixed its shape. So white begins with a tap at 1, taps at 5, and then joins his group with 7. So really nice. This is considered very nice. It looks a little like floaty, but you can clearly see that white stones are working pretty well together, and it's reducing a very large area. And if we go back to where it was, this is the sector line, right? So this is a huge, huge, huge area. Black still gets a ton of territory, but white also has a ton, and so just reducing like this is fine. So this was the first example of a pro game using the hit and run. A lot less calm than the other ones, I think. Sakata versus Fujisawa. So once again, we have another big Moyo game. This one looks really hard to try and do anything, in my opinion. So this is a good example of how pros would get this done. So white plays here on the sector line. It looks even inside the sector line a little bit. This looks pretty deep. And instead of black going just to start attacking immediately, black is strong enough that I guess it just moves on to the biggest move, right? This is the biggest expansion that black could do. But now this actually gave white the possibility to reduce. This is the shape point for this if you're trying to reduce this area. Black protects its territory it was making, white attaches to get stronger, and then white jumps, right? White doesn't focus on trying to save its one stone. It's playing very flexible, it's playing very light. It's trying to survive in a very hostile area. Newton, thanks to you for the follow. If you guys don't know, I do this every Monday. We go over chapters in Go books, um, and we try and do them in order, right? So this is the 7th or 8th week of me doing attack and defense. Might even be my 9th week of doing attack and defense. But anyway, um, let's see. So black pushes through, white plays like this. We can see, like I said, white doesn't care about sacrificing stones. And this is the one that really miffed me. White actually doesn't care about this cutting point. This cutting point looks devastating to white, but white is just playing as flexible as possible, right? White doesn't care if there's sacrifices involved. And we can see in the end result, which I really liked how it was stated. White started reducing with 1, but when black played to 2, he shifted over to the other side with 3 and 5, right? So he's just shifting around the board, right? Whatever black says is most important, then white will start saying, okay, this is important, so I'll play here. 5 probes, right? There's 5 that got sacrificed, but he flexibly, I don't know, that's clearly not a word, gives it up for flexibly gives it up for 7 to 15. He ignores the cutting point of 9, and creates a large influence on the left. So we can see that when he ignored this cut, which to me is impressive, he then played 13 and 15. And we can see that these stones have now pretty much connected to its large moyo, and is starting to make its own large moyo while still having a nice reduction here. So this was really, really interesting to me. I don't think I play like this, so it really fascinates me when I see certain things like this, like starting here and then just shifting over here, and then letting all my stones just kind of die here. I mean, when I do that, I sometimes have that in mind. I've done it before, but it just feels nice in this example. I really like that he got to connect back to his Moyo. So really cool. Okay, here we go. So this is the author Ishida versus Cho. White has a large moyo on the top left side. So this is very, very big, right? And so black needs to find a way to invade, right? This whole chapter we've been going over invasions and reductions, but the invasions to me are more interesting. I know a decent amount about reducing, but I don't know as much about invading. So, anyway, so I know this move. This is a very nice move. You usually use it when white already has a knight's move attached to the star point. This move comes up quite often. Um, so white protects its corner. Black says, "Can I have the corner? Some of the corner." They're gonna have a very strong discussion about it. Um, Black then shifts over here, which is this is that whole hit and run shift tactics that you just don't see people at my level do often, right? And usually you see the computer do it, and you're asking like why. But clearly, this helps try and connect to these. And what it does is helps this group after, which is pretty nice. So black Ataris pulls out. White is dying here, so white has to save itself. And then black gets to play this. And white fixes its problem, and you can see that black stones are now working together here. Black's central power justifies a deep invasion. So, because this black stones are very powerful and they're projecting influence over here, this justifies a deep invasion. White 4 and 6 defend the corner strongly. Remember when he Atari'd here and then played this. And black shifted to 7 and used black 9 and 11 as sacrifices. So this Atari to push white out and this Atari to push white out were planned sacrifices. So that 13 and 15 would be Sente. Working with move 17 to weakening the area around move 8. So we can see that these stones got to work together, and it actually weakened these stones pretty significantly. Um, so all in all, this was following the principles of invasions, right? We're looking for white's weaknesses, and that's kind of that's one of the principles I remember. So that's that. These were very specific positions. What we can take away is the idea of flexibility. So the idea is that these are pro games. These are pretty high level things that we're looking at, and they're very specific to these positions. So it's not like you need to memorize a lot of this stuff. You could memorize this Joseki. This is actually a pretty common Joseki. But what we can take away from it, especially if you're at like a double digit Q level and this is all above your head, is the idea of flexibility, right? Sacrificing, shifting focus, and don't be tied down with heavy stones. These are the ideas that universally we could take. And hopefully that these diagrams are helping you give new ideas for. So there's still a little bit more, but we're almost done. So in this case, to me, I see, black has a group and there's an overextension here, and so there's a weakness, and so white then invades, right? Flexibility and responding. We've seen examples of how the player who plays first plays like flexible, right? They tap outside, then come inside, or they tap inside and then come outside. What this part of the book or chapter is going to talk about is flexibility for the opposite player, right? This is some resistance to this. Flexibility is not exclusive to reducing or invading side, right? The person doing the reducing or invading. The other side, the other player, can often use the same methods. White invaded, how should black respond? So we're going to look at the moves. First, we're going to look at the standard one, right, which is touching on top of the stone. If white threatens to break the tiger's mouth, black has to connect, and then white links up very easy. If black answers with 2, white can link up easily. This is way too cooperative, right? It's too nice. So we have to find something else. So this is one way to resist, right? The idea is that we're going to touch something to get stronger here. And the stronger this is, the weaker this is. So if white was to Hane and then come down, black then gets to attach on top. Black can try attaching to the corner. This is a standard pattern. If white plays the standard pattern, the invading stone can't link up to the corner anymore and is considered in trouble. So I'm sure you guys have seen this before, where you attach to, an enclosure and then they attack you, and then they have to protect that corner, and then you get to usually make a base. So very standard pattern. Instead, pretty sure I remember there was like 2 ways to go about this. Maybe I didn't make the thing. Okay, yeah, it's here. Okay, so let me just fix this in case I have to re-record this. So it was here, and there's a AB here, so I don't forget it. But yeah, so instead of white blocking the corner, which is standard, right, and would get the stone in trouble, white has the option to then jump out. But if white jumps out, then black has the good follow-up move here. And so now you can see black got to take the corner. So white could play 4 instead, but this leads to black 5. Black takes the corner and is split in 2. The profit is good for black, and black is strong on both sides, right? Black is strong and powerful on both sides. So it's considered much better than the first diagram. In games between high-level players, these indirect attacks are common. So yeah, the idea is that when somebody invades your stuff, especially if they have a weak group next to you, then you can strengthen yourself, right? You don't have to just play the standard stuff. You could resist, right? And so in this case, you make this black group stronger, and then depending on how white answers, you're going to get a good result. So I really like this. And this actually kind of goes back to principle number 1. I remember consider your adjacent positions, right? If you have a very weak position, then you can't do deep invasions, right? Because then they can harp on that weakness, and then you'll have some trouble. So very cool. Very cool example of the opposite working well, right? Being flexible as the defender, not just the attacker. So really cool example. I think this is the very last one. So let us take a look at some more defense. Maybe not. Maybe. I think it is the last one. So it's Ishida versus Haruyama. Ishida's the author. Black has a large moyo on the bottom. How should white respond? I came from Play Go Online. Hi, Newton. Welcome. Sorry, you sent that like 20 minutes ago, but I do appreciate you coming through. Um, Black has a large moyo on the bottom. How should white respond? So we can see, yeah, black has a very large moyo here. And so how should we respond, right? So black decided to shoulder hit this stone, right? And its goal is to try and flatten white and build up its moyo. So let's see, if white played here, we jump, Tari, and then we attach. And you can see I'll just read the script so I don't repeat myself over and over. If white plays 1 in the standard position, black links to his moyo and makes it bigger. While white is flattened, this is not good for white. So we can see that if black gets all these attachment moves and flattened out white, black is getting a really good result of making a much larger moyo on the outside. So this is really nice. This is a nice shoulder hit for white. Or sorry, for black. Even though it doesn't look like they're joined, they actually become joined pretty easily. If you guys remember, we went over the standard moves for the shoulder hit, right? And so this is standard move number 1. This is standard move number 2. So if white tries to counterattack this stone, black's going to move up, move up. We know the next move is to play this one because it connects these groups back up, right? Which makes black not have a base here. But then black plays this very nice capping move. And so I'll read the script again so I don't repeat myself. If white pushes up, black still links his moyo, and white's wall is not effective because of black's position on the top. So if we look at 1 and 3 here, this wall, it's not effective because black is already kind of strong here, right? Black can turn and live pretty easy. Black can come out. And so this wall doesn't do anything if black lives here. So allowing black to connect to his moyo and white's moves doing nothing, this is a really bad result. None of the standard moves work, but understanding the standard moves helps you know when to use them and when to look for something else. So just like that other example where we attached on top, if you guys remember where we attached on top, that was the standard move. But then when white broke the tiger's mouth and then connected to the corner, it was too good for white. So it's good to know the standard plays, and then you have to make sure to read them out and look at the aftermath, because if you look at the aftermath and see that this is going to happen, you're not going to want to play it. So understanding standard moves is very important, and then learning when not to use them and do something else is even more important. So very, very good to know. This is an argument. Sorry, I'm ranting from off the book a little bit, but this is an argument I hear all the time where some teachers say don't teach double digit cube players Joseki because they're just going to think that that's the standard play and that's all they're going to do, and they're not going to know how to use directional play. But you have to, at some point in your Go career, you have to learn the standard plays so that you know when to use them and then when not to use them. Of course, when you teach somebody something new, they're going to try and use it, and they're not going to use it in the right context. But that's all a part of the growing pains. So whenever I hear that argument of saying like don't teach double digit Q players Joseki, you're gonna have to learn it eventually. So I think it's a good idea to learn it and then try and just remember to consider the aftermath and then learn when to use it and when not to use it. So anyway, sorry for that little tangent. We'll get back to the book. This is the last diagram, so we're almost done. So instead of playing the standard moves, we know by reading the aftermath that neither of them are good. So we're going to try something different, right? This is the resistance. This is playing flexible as the defender. And so this C move, finding a weakness, right? Here's a cutting point and a weakness to make this false. So we look for a weakness of our opponent. And just like in the last one, we didn't play like on this side, right? We played on this side to make ourselves stronger so that we can come back to attack this. So we looked on this side for this weakness. Black has 2 options. This one would probably be the most played, but it's a problem because now when black plays this, white then flexibly hanes, right? Doesn't care if there's a cutting point. And then flexibly hanes again. This is crazy, this double hane, right? White aims to induce black 1 to attack the shoulder hit directly. You can see white starting to get some strength against this stone. Even though there's a cut here, white will then use that Atari and then make a nice thick wall here. And so if black cuts white and gets an excellent result, white gets an excellent result and hurts the original shoulder hit. So this mark stone here. So using these as sacrifices, white got a very strong position. Black can't link up to his Moyo anymore, and so White's profiting a bit. So isn't Black, but it's nice that White broke the plan, right? I like this a lot. Very, very flexible, very interesting. So now finally, Black should play B instead of playing A. And now White gets the cut. Black's alive, right? Because Black can take the stone at any time or make two eyes pretty easy. Um, and then Black tries to strengthen its shoulder hit, but once White plays here, it kind of is like connecting up to its group with this kill. Now, I don't think the ladder works right away, but it's gonna, even if Black runs, it's gonna make White stronger, which will allow us to counterattack this. Black saw through the trap and turned at one. The exchange to four followed. This result was a surprise after the shoulder hit play. In the book, it says, but in Go, these surprises happen often. So that is it, guys. That is everything of Chapter 7. Everything you should have knowledge of for reducing and invading. I don't know if you feel that way. I still have many questions, but it did open up so many new ideas, even to myself, um, at my level, which is like one step from one dan. So really cool, very advanced, hard chapter. What we talked about, we mentioned that, like, you don't have to learn the specifics, but putting the ideas in your head is most important, right? And these are the most strong fundamentals that we took away from this chapter, right? Consider adjacent areas. If you're very powerful, right, especially in the center, then you can invade pretty deep. If you're already winning in territory and you don't need a deep invasion, then just reduce, right? There's so many skills you need to put to the test when it comes to invading and reducing, which probably makes it some of the hardest part of the game. But hopefully these will help you, especially playing flexible, finding enemy weaknesses, and considering the adjacent areas. Um, that's it, guys. Thank you for coming to class.